Good morning or afternoon. You might be in the afternoon already. I'm on the West Coast, so it's still morning here. And congratulations to all of you with the perfect time management skills. You are so much better than me. Sorry to be a couple minutes late. Let's see. How you guys doing? I'm doing great. I still look pale. I still feel cruddy. But we're here and we're learning. You know, somebody should have taught me how to do makeup. I don't even like wearing makeup, but... Oh, well, let's get into it. Do you guys miss my weird beginning intros when I would sing a random song? Because I don't miss that at all. Oh, I feel so pale. We're going to get through this. Today we're on the fourth principle, which is, without religion, the government of a free people cannot be maintained. But we're going to do a quick review and quiz on the last study, which was virtuous and morally strong, electing virtuous and morally strong people. So I just have I got the quiz uploaded for you without the answers. So you guys who are trying to get in under the radar, well, you'll succeed because it's all radar here. Radar. Oh, sorry. Now, all those songs, you guys, all those songs. Oh, yes, I do have the answers, though, but you're not going to see them. So, just a quick review on the lesson number 4, which was the third principle, electing virtuous and morally strong people. This is today's. We'll be doing that today, but let's just do the quick review of what we learned on Wednesday. And I like this outline they give me. It feels very organized, far better than I could organize myself. So here we go. Quiz number 5, principle 3. If men were angels, government would not be necessary. 2. Jefferson discussed 2 kinds of aristocracies. Name them. Artificial, which is from inheritance, wealth, and status. And natural aristocracy is virtue and talents. John Adams called politics a divine science. The founder said that people should serve for what level of salary. You know, this was an interesting one. I was looking through this one. The only number I could find was when George Washington was offered a $25,000 salary. But that was for presidency, so I don't feel like I've got this. I didn't find a number. I mean, they stated that it was done gratis, free. So there's one I'm not so sure about. 5, what did Franklin mention as an example of this kind of service? George Washington, the farmer. Because they felt that people should develop their own natural abilities and serve in government after they'd already, developed their talents and income, and it wasn't for them to get into politics to make a living at. They pulled George Washington out of retirement 3 times. It wasn't a position he wanted. They tried to make him king. He was disgusted at that. 6, what are the 2 passions which influence the affairs of men? Oh, hear this part. The love of power and money. 7, why do these passions become magnified in political office? I have that one blank too. I just blanked out on that one. Why do they become magnified? Because ultimate power corrupts? Because the flesh? Because human nature? Because there's no oversight over them, perhaps, as we look around and wonder what's going on? We're absent. We're not governing. 8, what did Ben Franklin predict with regard to salaries of elected officials? Salary increases will always be demanded. And if it runs wild, they will take the people for all their land, all their money, and make them slaves forever. A monarchy also was the ultimate end of that. 9. What was Pennsylvania's solution to the problem of too many people running for the same office? That was Ben Franklin's home state. He had suggested that their profits often ought to be lessened by the legislature. 10. Write the third principle of liberty. Remaining the most promising method of securing a virtuous and morally stable people is to elect virtuous leaders. That's our review of Wednesday. Now we're going to get into today's. It's a reading. It's a bit of reading. So thank you guys for being here and learning about these principles. It took this person 40 years to compile this book so that we could understand these better. And I certainly have. I love this picture of Washington in this, on the side of this here, on his knees, looking up to God. It's a beautiful picture. Hi, you guys. Oh, look at this. Back of the classers are here. Yeah, you don't mind short intros, but the long ones played every time loses me. I know. Sometimes I'll just rewatch a minute or two. I've long since stopped watching myself stream. You guys know I figured it out. Remember when we learned everybody's going to get their 15 minutes or 15 seconds of fame in the end? We've all heard that, right? They didn't say... Was it Orwell that said that? Or if somebody else, wasn't it? They did not mention that everybody's going to be too busy watching themselves to care. I certainly fell into that. And it's good to rewatch yourself a bit if you are new at streaming, so you can see, oh, I say and too much, or, to fine tune. But to be caught up rewatching my own streams and stuff like that, if I have a special guest, a lot of times I want to rewatch it because you don't know what's being said in those spontaneous conversations. You're just having them, and it's like, uh-oh, what did we talk about? So sometimes I'll rewatch, but for the most part, I'm tired of hearing myself talk, and I get no pleasure in rewatching my own streams. So that's that. But here we go. Fourth principle. Without religion, the government of a free people cannot be maintained. Americans of the 20th century often failed to realize the supreme importance which the founding fathers originally attached to the role of religion in the structure of the unique civilization which they hoped would emerge as the first free people in modern times. Many Americans also failed to realize that the founders felt the role of religion would be as important in our own day as it was in theirs. In 1787, the very year the Constitution was written and approved by Congress, that same Congress passed the famous Northwest Ordinance. In it, they emphasized the essential need to teach religion and morality in the schools. Here is the way they said it. Article 3, religion, morality, and knowledge being necessary to good government and the happiness of mankind, schools and the means of education shall forever be encouraged. Notice that formal education was to include among its responsibilities the teaching of 3 important subjects. 1, religion, which might be defined as a fundamental system of beliefs concerning man's origin and relationship to the cosmic universe, as well as his relationship with his fellow men. 2, morality, which may be described as a standard of behavior distinguishing right from wrong. 3, knowledge, which is an intellectual awareness and understanding of established facts relating to any field of human experience or inquiry. Example, history, geography, science. Washington describes the founder's position. The position set forth in the Northwest Ordinance was re-emphasized by President George Washington in his farewell address. Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, Religion and morality are indispensable supports, and let us with caution indulge the supposition that morality can be maintained without religion. Reason and experience both forbid us to expect that national morality can prevail to the exclusion of religious principle. It is substantially true that virtue or morality is necessary spring of popular government. The teaching of religion in schools restricted to universal fundamentals. Having established that religion is the foundation of morality and that both are essential to good government and the happiness of mankind, the founders set about to exclude the creeds and biases or dissensions of individual denominations so as to make the teaching of religion a unifying cultural adhesive rather than a divisive apparatus. Jefferson wrote a bill for establishing elementary schools in Virginia and made this point clear by stating, "No religious reading, instruction, or exercise shall be prescribed or practiced inconsistent with the tenets of any religious sect or denomination." Obviously, under such restrictions, the only religious tenets to be taught in public schools would have to be those which were universally accepted by all faiths and completely fundamental in these premises. Franklin describes the 5 fundamentals of all sound religion. Several of the founders have left us with descriptions of their basic religious beliefs, and Benjamin Franklin summarized those which he felt were the fundamental points in all sound religion. This is the way he said it in a letter to Ezra Stiles, president of Yale University. "Here is my creed. I believe in one God, the creator of the universe, that he governs it by his providence, that he ought to be worshipped, that the most acceptable service we render to him is in doing good to his other children, that the soul of man is immortal and will be treated with justice in another life, respecting its conduct in this. These I take to be the fundamental points in all sound religion." The 5 points of fundamental religious belief expressed or implied in Franklin's statement are these. 1. There exists a creator who made all things and mankind should recognize and worship him. 2. The creator has revealed a moral code of behavior for happy living, which distinguishes right from wrong. 3. The creator holds mankind responsible for the way they treat each other. 4. All mankind live beyond this life. 5. In the next life, mankind are judged for their conduct in this one. All 5 of these tenets run through practically all of the founders' writings. These are the beliefs which the founders sometimes referred to as the religion of America, and they felt these fundamentals were so important in providing good government and the happiness of mankind that they wanted them taught in the public schools along with morality and knowledge. Samuel Adams said, "This group of basic beliefs which constitute the religion of America is the religion of all mankind." In other words, these fundamental beliefs belong to all world faiths and could therefore be taught without being offensive to any sect or denomination, as indicated in the Virginia Bill for establishing elementary schools. John Adams called these tenets the general principles on which the American civilization had been founded. Thomas Jefferson called these basic beliefs the principles in which God has united us all. From these statements, it is obvious how significantly the founders looked upon the fundamental precepts of religion and morality as the cornerstones of a free government. This gives additional importance to the previously quoted warnings of Washington when he said, "Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. Who that is a sincere friend to it can look with indifference upon attempts to shake the foundation of our fabric?" Washington issued this solemn warning because in France, shortly before he wrote his farewell address, 1796, the promoters of atheism and amorality had seized control and turned the French Revolution into a shocking bloodbath of wild excesses and violence. Washington obviously never wanted anything like that to happen in the United States. Therefore, he had said, "In vain would that man claim the tribute of patriotism who should labor to subvert these great pillars of human happiness, religion, and morality." Alexis de Tocqueville discovers the importance of religion in America. When the French jurist Alexis de Tocqueville visited the United States in 1831, he became so impressed with what he saw that he went home and wrote one of the best definitive studies on the American culture and the constitutional system that had been published up to that time. His book was called Democracy in America. Concerning religion in America, de Tocqueville said, "On my arrival in the United States, the religious aspect of the country was the first thing that struck my attention. And the longer I stayed there, the more I perceived the great political consequences resulting from this new state of things." He described the situation as follows. "Religion in America takes no direct part in the government of society, but it must be regarded as the first of their political institutions. I do not know whether all Americans have a sincere faith in their religion, for who can search the human heart? But I am certain that they hold it to be indispensable to the maintenance of republican institutions. This opinion is not peculiar to a class of citizens or a party, but it belongs to the whole nation and to every rank of society." European philosophers turned out to be wrong. In Europe, it had been popular to teach that religion and liberty were enemies of each other. De Tocqueville saw the very opposite happening in America. He wrote, "The philosophers of the 18th century explained in a very simple manner the gradual decay of religious faith. Religious zeal, said they, must necessarily fail the more generally liberty is established and knowledge diffused. Unfortunately, the facts by no means accord with their theory. There are certain populations in Europe whose unbelief is only equaled by their ignorance and debasement. While in America, one of the freest and most enlightened nations in the world, the people fulfill with fervor all the outward duties of religion. A new kind of religious vitality emerges in America. De Tocqueville pointed out that in France I had almost always seen the spirit of religion and the spirit of freedom marching in opposite directions. But in America I found that they were intimately united." He then pointed out that the early American colonists brought with them into the New World a form of Christianity which I cannot better describe than by styling it democratic and republican religion. This contributed powerfully to the establishment of a republic and a democracy in public affairs, and from the beginning, politics and religion contracted an alliance which has never been solved. However, he emphasized the fact that this religious undergirding of the political structure was a common denominator of moral teachings in different denominations and not the political pressure of some natural church hierarchy. Said he, "The sects, different denominations, that exist in the United States are innumerable. They all differ in respect to the worship which is due to the Creator, but they all agree in respect to the duties which are due from man to man. Each sect adores the deity in its own peculiar manner, but all sects preach the same moral law in the name of God. All the sects of the United States are comprised within the great unity of Christianity, and Christian morality is everywhere the same. There is no country in the world where Christian religion retains a greater influence over the souls of men than in America." It was astonishing to Tocqueville that liberty and religion could be combined in such a balanced structure of harmony and good order. He wrote, "The revolutionists of America are obliged to profess an ostensible respect for Christian morality and equity, which does not permit them to violate wantonly the laws that oppose their designs. Thus, while the law permits the Americans to do what they please, religion prevents them from conceiving and forbids them to commit what is rash or unjust or sinful." My words. De Tocqueville describes the role of religion in the schools. De Tocqueville found that the schools, especially in New England, incorporated the basic tenets of religion right along with history and political science in order to prepare the student for adult life. He wrote, "In New England, every citizen receives the elementary notions of human knowledge. He is taught, moreover, the doctrines and the evidences of his religion, the history of his country, and the leading features of its constitution. In the states of Connecticut and Massachusetts, it's extremely rare to find a man imperfectly acquainted with all these things, and a person wholly ignorant of them is a sort of a phenomenon. De Tocqueville describes the role of the American clergy. Uh-oh, I might need to get my book out. I cut this bottom page cut off a little. Alexis de Tocqueville saw a unique quality of cohesive strength emanating from the clergy of the various churches in America. After noting that all the clergy seemed anxious to maintain a separation of church and state, he nevertheless observed that collectively they had a great influence on the morals and customs of public life. After noting that all the clergy seemed anxious to maintain separation of church and state, he nevertheless observed that collectively they had a great influence on the morals and customs of public life. This indirectly reflected itself in the formulating of laws and ultimately in fixing the moral and political climate of the American Commonwealth. As a result, he wrote, "This led me to examine more attentively that I had hitherto done the station which the American clergy occupied in political society. I learned with surprise that they filled no public appointments. I did not see one of them in the administration, and they are not even represented in the legislative assemblies." How different this was from Europe, where the clergy nearly always belonged to a national church and occupied seats of power. He wrote, "The unbelievers in Europe attack the Christians as their political opponents rather than as their religious adversaries. They hate the Christian religion as the opinion of a political party much more than as an error of belief, and they reject the clergy less because they are the representatives of the deity than because they are the allies of the government." In America, he noted, the clergy remained politically separated from the government, but nevertheless provided a moral stability among the people which permitted the government to prosper. In other words, there was a separation of church and state, but not separation of state and religion. The clergy fueled the flame of freedom, stressed morality, and alerted the citizenry to dangerous trends. The role of the churches to perpetuate the social and political culture of the United States provoked the following comment from Tocqueville. "The Americans combine the notions of Christianity and of liberty so intimately in their minds that it is impossible to make them conceive the one without the other. I have known of societies formed by Americans to send out ministers of the gospel into the new western states, to found schools and churches there, lest religion should be allowed to die away in those remote settlements, and the rising states be less fitted to enjoy free institutions than the people from whom they came." De Tocqueville discovered that while the church clergy felt it would be demeaning to their profession to become involved in partisan politics, they nevertheless believed implicitly in their duty to keep a message of religious principles and moral values flowing out to the people as the best safeguard for America's freedom and political security. In one of de Tocqueville's most frequently quoted passages, he stated, "I sought for the greatness and genius of America in her commodious harbors and in her ample rivers, and it was not there. In her fertile fields and boundless prairies, and it was not there. In her rich mines and in her vast world commerce, and it was not there. Not until I went to the churches of America and heard her pulpits aflame with righteousness did I understand the secret of her genius and power. America is great because she is good, and if America ever ceases to be good, America will cease to be great." The founders campaigned for equality in all religions. One of the most remarkable undertakings of the American founders was to do something no other nation had ever successfully achieved: the task of providing legal equality for all religions, both Christian and non-Christian. Jefferson and Madison were undoubtedly the foremost among the founders in pushing through the first of these statutes in Virginia. Jefferson sought to de-establish the official church of Virginia in 1776, but this effort was not completely successful until 10 years later. Meanwhile, in 1784, Patrick Henry was so enthusiastic about strengthening the whole spectrum of Christian churches that he introduced a bill establishing a provision for teachers of the Christian religion. This document is reproduced in the supplementary. Okay, I did a stream on that, and I've read the whole remonstrance rebuttal from James Madison to this, and maybe We'll hear some about this now. It was the intention of this bill to provide that each taxpayer would designate to what society of Christians his money should go. The funds collected by this means were to make provision for a minister or teacher of the gospel, or the providing places of divine worship for that denomination, and to none other use whatever. Madison immediately reacted with his famous memorial and remonstrance against religious assessments, in which he proclaimed with the greatest possible energy the principle that the state government should not prefer one religion over another. Equality of religions was the desired goal. He wrote, "Who does not see that the same authority which can establish Christianity in exclusion of all other religions may establish with the same ease any particular sect of Christians, in exclusion of all other sects? The bill violates that equality which ought to be the basis of every law." And that is where separation of church and state comes from, that letter, and people misquote it all the time. It's context. Why the founders wanted the federal government excluded from all problems relating to religion and churches. The Supreme Court has stated on numerous occasions that to most people, freedom of religion is the most precious of all the unalienable rights next to life itself. When the United States was founded, there were many Americans who were not enjoying freedom of religion to the fullest possible extent. At least 7 of the states had officially established religions or denominations at the time the Constitution was adopted. Connecticut had the Congregational Church, Delaware Christian Faith, Maryland Christian Faith, Massachusetts Congregational Church, New Hampshire Protestant Faith, New Jersey Protestant Faith, South Carolina Protestant Faith. Under these circumstances, the founders felt it would have been catastrophic and might have precipitated civil strife if the federal government had tried to establish a national policy on religion or disestablish the denominations which the states had adopted. Nevertheless, the founders who were examining this problem were anxious to eventually see complete freedom of all faiths and an equality of all religions, both Christian and non-Christian. How could this be accomplished without stirring up civil strife? Justice Story describes the founders' solution. In his famous commentaries on the Constitution, Justice Joseph Story of the Supreme Court pointed out why the founders, as well as the states themselves, felt the federal government should be absolutely excluded from any authority in the field of settling questions on religion. He stated, "In some of these states, Episcopalians constituted the predominant sect. In others, Presbyterians. In others, Congregationalists. In others, Quakers. And in others again, there was a close numerical rivalry among contending sects. It was impossible that there should not arise perpetual strife and perpetual jealousy on the subject of ecclesiastical ascendancy, if the national government were left free to create a religious establishment. The only security was in extirpating the power, but this alone would have been an imperfect security if it had not been followed up by a declaration of the right of the free exercise of religion, and a prohibition, as we have seen, of all religious tests." All caps here. Thus, the whole power over the subject of religion is left exclusively to the state governments to be acted upon according to their own sense of justice and the state constitutions. This is why the First Amendment of the Constitution provides that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Jefferson and Madison emphasized the intent of the founders. It is clear from the writings of the founders, as well as the commentaries of Justice Story, that the First Amendment was designed to eliminate forever the interference of the federal government in any religious matters within the various states. As Madison stated during the Virginia Ratification Convention, there is not a shadow of right in the general government to intermeddle with religion. Its least interference with it would be a most flagrant usurpation. Jefferson took an identical position when he wrote the Kentucky Resolutions of 1798. It is true, as a general principle, that no power over the freedom of religion, freedom of speech, or freedom of the press being delegated to the United States by the Constitution, all lawful powers respecting the same did of right remain and were reserved to the states or to the people. The Supreme Court, as well as Congress, excluded from jurisdiction over religion. We're almost done. A couple more pages. Real quick. In the Kentucky resolutions, Thomas Jefferson also made it clear that the federal judicial system was likewise prohibited from intermeddling with religious matters within the states. He wrote, "Special provision has been made by one of the amendments to the Constitution, which expressly declares that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thereby guarding in the same sentence and under the same words the freedom of religion, of speech, and of the press, insomuch that whatever violates either throws down the sanctuary which covers the others, and that libels, falsehood, and defamation, equally with heresy and false religions, all caps, are withheld from the cognizance of federal tribunals." The federal wall between church and state. When Thomas Jefferson was serving in the Virginia legislature, he helped initiate a bill to have a day of fasting and prayer, but when he became president, Jefferson said there was no authority in the federal government to proclaim religious holidays. In a letter to Danbury Baptist Associated dated January 1st, 1802, he explained his position and the Constitution said the Constitution had created a wall of separation between church and state. In recent years, the Supreme Court has undertaken to use this metaphor as an excuse for meddling in the religious issues arising within the various states. It has not only presumed to take jurisdiction in these disputes, but has actually forced the states to take the same hands-off position toward religious matters, even though this restriction originally applied only to the federal government. This obvious distortion of the original intent of Jefferson when he used the metaphor of a wall separating church and state becomes entirely apparent when the statements and actions of Jefferson are examined in their historical context. It will be recalled that Jefferson and Madison were anxious that the states intervene in religious matters so as to provide for equality among all religions, and that all churches or religions assigned preferential treatment should be disestablished from such preferment. They further joined with the other founders in expressing an anxiety that all religions be encouraged in order to promote the moral fiber and religious tone of the people. This, of course, would be impossible if there were an impenetrable wall between church and state on the state level. Jefferson's wall was obviously intended only for the federal government, and the Supreme Court application of this metaphor to the states has come under severe criticism. Religious problems must be solved within the various states. In Thomas Jefferson's second inaugural address, he virtually signaled the states to press forward in settling their religious issues, since it was within their jurisdiction and not that of the federal government. In matters of religion, I have considered that its free exercise is placed by the Constitution independent of the powers of the general government. I have therefore undertaken on no occasion to prescribe the religious exercises suited to it, but have left them, as the Constitution found them, under the direction and discipline of state or church authorities acknowledged by the several religious societies. Jefferson, along with the other founders, believed that it was within the power of the various states to eliminate those inequities which existed between the various faiths, and then pursue a policy of encouraging religious institutions of all kinds, because it was in the public interest to use their influence to provide the moral stability needed for good government and the happiness of mankind. Jefferson's resolution for disestablishing the Church of England in Virginia was not to set up a wall between the state and the church, but simply, as he explained it, for the purpose of taking away the privilege and preeminence of one religious sect over another, and thereby, all caps, equal rights among all. Affirmative programs to encourage all religions on the state level. In view of the extremely inflexible and rigid position which the U.S. Supreme Court has taken in recent years concerning the raising up of a wall between state government and religion, it is remarkable how radically different the founders' views were upon such matters. Take, for example, their approval of religious meetings in tax-supported public buildings. With the founders, there was no objection as to the propriety of using public buildings for religious purposes, for that was to be encouraged. The only question was whether or not the facilities could be made available equally to all denominations desiring them. Notice how Jefferson reflects his deep satisfaction in the way the churches were using the local courthouse in Charlottesville near Jefferson's home. In our village of Charlottesville, there is a good degree of religion, with a small spice only for fanaticism. We have 4 sects, but without either church or meeting house. The courthouse is the common temple, one Sunday in the month to each. Here, Episcopalian and Presbyterian, Methodist and Baptists meet together, join in hymning their Maker, listen with attention and devotion to each other's preachers, and all mix in society with perfect harmony. One cannot help asking the modern Supreme Court, where is the wall of separation between church and state when the courthouse is approved for the common temple of all the religious sects of a village? Of course, Jefferson would be the first to require some other arrangement if all of the churches could not be accommodated equally. But so long as they were operating equally and harmoniously together, it was looked upon as a commendable situation. The fact they were utilizing a tax-supported public building was not even made an issue. Religious principles undergird good government. What doctrines were Americans so anxious to teach one another in order that they might remain united and well governed? These religious precepts turned out to be the heart and soul of the entire American political philosophy. They were taken from the books of John Locke, Sir William Blackstone, and other great thinkers of the day who took them directly from the Bible. Thus, religion and the American institutions of freedom were combined. In fact, the founders had taken the 5 truths we have already identified as religion and had built the whole constitutional framework on top of them. The sanctity of civil rights and property rights, as well as the obligation of citizens to support the Constitution in protecting their unalienable rights, were all based on these religious precepts. Therefore, having established the general principle that without religion the government of a free people cannot be maintained, we now turn to the specific principles on which this general concept was based. And that goes into the next principle, which is 5. The 5th principle. What is it? All things were created by God. Therefore, upon him all mankind are equally dependent, and to him they are equally responsible. A lot of people can't get past that one today, can they? They are God. You try to tell them. Try to tell them. One nation under God. United we stand, divided we fall. Hey, Bonnie, wasn't the Capitol used as a church? Probably. Yeah, this is, so today's, I'm supposed to bring an issue of today. Perfect record, no infraction. Oh, you talking insurance? Okay. Hi, Jen. Good to see you, honey. Oh, yeah, I wanted to talk to you. It was good. 34 states on the call, y'all. First, I thought it was going to be real low. It was like 23, 24. But mid-call, they said there was... No, I don't think you should refrigerate it. Just keep it in a cool, dark place. If you got a bunch of it, though, Jen's been trying to find some. RSO. So today, today's issue, we know what happened yesterday, right? That potato head, fraudulent criminal pedophile, not my president, Biden, said something about not being able to talk about certain things. That should activate all the pastors, huh? That ought to do it. You gonna come after us? I don't even know what was said, you guys. I do know that Scrimshaw Rose brought it up, and it was a great point to bring up. But, you know, everything that comes out of this administration that is not, that goes against our foundation, statutes, ordinances, mandates, all those things were set up. Those are for the government only. Do not comply with tyranny. They're tyrants. It's governed by the consent. Consent of the governed. Consent of the governed. I do not consent. People keep consenting to this shell of a man who gets in front of the media. People don't realize the media's not who you think they are. They don't help us. They don't help us get out of anything. They keep us in it. Spinning and spinning, our blood pressure up through the roof, getting angry, getting mad, hating on each other, divided. Compartmentalize. Victim Olympics. Heard that yesterday. The psychological warfare is, it's got to be very confusing to those who do not take the time to ever read a book. Is all I can say. Your Netflix, your Disney, your sports, your culture in America is so evil. We have to stop supporting things that are keeping us down. Today's issue is, this criminal who doesn't have a proper oath or bond, and neither does anybody in your own county. There's a Fani Willis in every county. There's a fraud in every county, and they're shoving so much money while we suffer. They are just laughing at us. They're laughing at us because we don't know, and we're not looking at them, and we're not turning over every rock to see what they're doing with the money that they have. It's a matter of oversight, and we're absent. We are the government. We have the government we deserve. Until we show up, we're just getting bullied. That's why we have to stand up, speak up, show up, learn, read, study to show thyself approved, God says. Not sit around and, eat grapes and watch TV and just enjoy life. Yeah, do that for sure. But you have a duty and an obligation to the future. We have, us here, we feel it. There's grandma and grandpas in here. There's people of all ages in here. I'm not a grandma or grandpa yet, but I got my kids. They did not grow up in the same country I grew up in. These poor kids, what they've been through for the last 4 years. The schools, these colleges have just proved so much. I don't even have to say it. Because we all had to see it and we all had to experience it so that we could understand how far we are from the course. We have a great government setup system if we would only partake in it. I think tonight I think Sean wants to stream tonight. It'll be later, about 8 or 8:30 Pacific time. And we'll be talking about assembly. But we have we do have a training call tonight, so yeah, they're not radical activists or protest. And I support protests. I support peacefully assembled protests, 100%. Even if it's for something stupid. I do not support it for terrorists. At all. You're fools out there cheering for Hamas, taking over campuses, calling it Infantifa. I don't support you at all. You need to get out of my country. You need to be locked up for treason. You're a traitor. But you want to peacefully assemble and protest? The good thing about those is when I did it with Chuck and Genevieve, who, by the way, are the greatest grassroots in Humboldt County. If you didn't know, Chuck and Genevieve. And a good recipe I could share with you. Let's see, I hope I put it on. Because she's got the Corona Fear Tonic recipe. I forgot about that. I remembered that recently. We've been sick all week, and I don't even think to do this stuff for myself. But Chuck and Genevieve, when we were out there at the courthouse, they had their recipe and their flyer with all. It was like a page and a half of sources, books, and stuff like that. This is why I call them all out. It's all here, These people are disgusting to me. I just can't stand them. I don't have her Corona Fear Tonic here. Darn it. I need to get it back up here. If you have never seen what took place at Soldiers Field in 1933, a football stadium, I don't believe in any of these sports anymore. I think they're all rigged. They're all using satanic symbology and numbers. They always have. They always have. And I think that just like when I used to go to Grateful Dead concerts and I used to worship Jerry Garcia and Bob Weir and all those guys. Oh, Bobby. Loved Bobby Weir so much. He was so hot in his shorts. And this little pink polo. I recognize the chaos that came afterwards and during and just in all of that, because my heart was with a band who was not about glorifying God in any way. They were about glorifying their self, getting their self fat and filthy rich, and manipulating children. They loved it. They loved it. I feel the same way about these sporting events and other concert music events, Netflix, Disney, these kind of things, that people allow themselves to be under the programming. And I think that there are spells being cast. Even Christians know the halftime show is demonic. They've known it for 10, 20 years. Olympics, demonic. How many sports athletes have been dropping dead on the field for the last 3 years? I think football's great and baseball's great when it's not under the mains. That's why a lot of people like to watch college football and stuff. But, you have to be so careful. It's a case-by-case basis. Is the coach a Satanist or not? It's very dangerous. We're in dangerous times. We should not be dabbling with anything that's got a satanic smell to it at all. This legitimately took place. This shows Zionist Jews taking the babies, putting it in the statue of Moloch, and screaming their heads off. I'm going to stand with the real Israel. I'm going to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I recognize there are bad people that will hide behind good movements. And that's where America's at right now. They're waking up. The streamers are starting to eat each other up now. All the people that have been saying they're with this or that, and it's coming out. It's all coming out. It's over. The gig is up. People are figuring out that they have to research. You have to read. You have to read and research. I really thought I had her Corona Fear Tonic. Oh, I think maybe it's here. There's Chuck and Genevieve. If you're in Humboldt County, okay, if you've been in Humboldt County and you've gone by the courthouse or you've been to any freedom event in the last 3 or 4 years, I guarantee these people have walked up to you, told you to not take the jab, told you to not take the test, gave you a flyer, gave you some food, gave you some Corona Fear Tonic that she makes and brings. These are the grassroots of Humboldt County. These people are living legends. They are what made me want to be better. They are what motivated me. Not no famous streamer. America, you are too starstruck still. That's all I can really say. You are too starstruck still. I put a lot of my favorite people on this page that are godly people, that are open politically. And what was on the bottom there? What else did I have there? Oh, the common law grand jury. That's in a couple places on here now. An excerpt, a good chapter, a great excerpt on the common law grand jury, which I got from another book, The Making of America, This Big Fat Daddy. I love this book. But, you know, there's a lot of people that are assembling right now, and a lot of good things are happening, but there's still a lack of knowledge. They're never going to teach you. They're never going to teach you at the football game on Netflix or Disney or at that concert or whatever we're all doing while we're sitting on this precipice, getting poisoned from the air, water, and everywhere, and lied to in every direction. And it's like, I don't know how much more y'all can take, but like I've had enough, you know. I've had enough. My sense of urgency couldn't be higher. I want to work night and day on solutions. I would love to unite with people, but people are stuck in this place where, let me see where I can find where you and I don't agree so I don't have to deal with you, and I don't want to deal with that, and I just want to forget about that. That's where we're at. And we're in a very dangerous situation with fraudulent criminals in charge, and they're sitting around like sitting ducks. They got to be crapping their pants. So many of them. You think Fonnie Willis is feeling good right now, or Letitia or Tiffany or any of those whores? They're all whores. They're Grant whores. These people make me sick. They're criminals, and they should be dealt with. Rebuke the oppressor, Isaiah 1:7 says. We're not supposed to sit around and take all this stuff, you know? We're not supposed to just let it be and obey the government. You are the government. You are the government. I'm leaving you with this. And it's not in there. I thought maybe it's 7. I thought it was 1:7. No, it's 1:17. Of course it is. Of course it is. But a little before that, let's read this whole thing. Let's see. Let's just read it. The vision of Isaiah the son of Amos when he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord has spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. The ox knows its owner, and the donkey its master's crib. But Israel does not know. My people do not consider. Alas, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a brood of evildoers, children who are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked to anger the Holy One of Israel. They have turned away backward. Why should you be stricken again? You will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick, and the whole heart faints. From the sole of the foot even to the head, there is no soundness in it. By wounds and bruises and putrefying sores, they have not been closed or bound up or soothed with ointment. Your country is desolate. Your cities are burned with fire. Strangers devour your land in your presence, and it is desolate and overthrown by strangers. So the daughter of Zion is left as a booth in a vineyard, as a hut in a garden of cucumbers, as a besieged city. Unless the Lord of hosts had left to us a very small remnant, we would have become like Sodom. We would have been made like Gomorrah. Like California? Hear the word of the Lord, you rulers of Sodom. Give ear to the law of our land, you people of Gomorrah, California. You people, to what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices to me, says the Lord? I've had enough of burnt offerings of rams and the fat of fed cattle. I do not delight in the blood of bulls or of lambs or goats. When you come to appear before me, who has required this from your hand to trample my courts? Bring no more futile sacrifices. Incense is an abomination to me. The new moons, the Sabbaths, and the callings of assemblies. I cannot endure iniquity and the sacred meeting. Your new moons and your appointed feasts my soul hates. They are a trouble to me. I am weary of bearing them. When you spread out your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Even though you make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood. Wash yourselves clean, make yourselves clean, put away the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil, learn to do good, seek justice, rebuke the oppressor, defend the fatherless, plead for the widow. Come now, and let us reason together, says the Lord. Though your sins are like scarlet, they shall be white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, they shall be as wool. If you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. But if you refuse and rebel, you shall be devoured by the sword, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. I'm going to drop the last couple links. Oh, yeah, we can tell you're not a sports nut. We can tell you're not a sports nut. You never do talk about sports, do you? Yeah, I mean, I've been to Cubs games. My husband loves the Cubs. I have family members who love sports. I know it's offending when I talk that way. I don't care. You know, truth hurts. Truth hurts. I didn't want to hear it about the Grateful Dead either. The name, you know, Grateful Dead. It's just like, that's an obvious one. Okay. But the reality is, it's, you know, we're living in a time like no other time. We went through COVID. We've gone through drag shows for kids. It's not time to be doing the same things that we've been doing, right? I'm not wrong here. Do something new and different. It's fun to do new and different. Stars got me gonna go bring my ponies down. I'm gonna do a pony show. I mean, you know, I get out there in my community. I love to stay home and read and play my piano and just not be around people. And then there's this other part of me where I love people and I love meeting new people and finding out about them and connecting with them, and you know, not so that I can find what we don't agree on so we can then cancel each other, because that is something that we all have to reject. That's the programming that's been laid for us. Have you noticed families tearing each other apart? It's programming. It's subliminal messages behind everything. The stupid phone. Every time I get on Facebook, Facebook's like, don't get off. Keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. Don't get off. I know that's it. I dropped the link, Bonnie. It's Isaiah chapter 1. All right, I'll see you guys on the next one, which I think might be tonight. If Sean hit me up this morning and said stream tonight after our class. So that would be probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock Pacific time, which is rather late, but y'all don't sleep either, so. I love you guys. I hope that you do something fun today. Get out in nature, walk barefoot. I hope it's sunny. I hope you're growing a garden. Ooh, we should do the Show Me Your Garden stream this weekend, right? I got my stuff planted this week. I got a lot of stuff planted this week. Tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers. I had celery already growing and green onions. Thank you to my friend Carolina who taught me about regrowing green onions. Don't ever throw those end roots away. Just stick them in dirt. They'll regrow. So maybe we'll be back more than just this evening. But if not, I hope you guys have a great weekend if I don't catch you. And I do appreciate y'all being here. Thank you so much. See you on the next one. Peace.